Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I wanted to take a look at the new Ballistic Shield that was added into Battlefield 4. DICE recently approached me asking if I wanted to take a look at some of the new features that was introduced with the Dragon's Teeth DLC, and I was like, yeah, sure, I accept this offer, I accept this challenge, because I personally just wanted to figure out if this thing was even worthy of the support class. Would you ever want to use the Riot Shield over something like the XM25 Airburst or C4? And I have to say that before I made this video, I would have said no, like never. I was playing on Conquest, I was playing on Domination, and every single time I used the Ballistic Shield, while every once in a while, in select few situations, it provided some marginal tactical advantage for my team, but the overall picture of it wasn't all that impressive. And while I still do not think that this is one of the best gadgets for the support class, there are a few select situations where this can help your team. Very few situations. And so I decided to start my journey on Conquest. I figured since Conquest is the bread and butter of the Battlefield franchise, that this would be a good place to start. And it's safe to say that it's atrocious on this game mode. While every once in a while you may be able to block some bullets as you're trying to push up onto an objective or when you're trying to move from cover to cover, the thing about Conquest is that it's happening all around you. And the thing about the Riot Shield is that it only blocks bullets that are directly in front of you. And so as soon as you venture out into this scary world that is Battlefield and you venture away from your cover, yeah, the guy in front of you may not be able to take you out, but the million other people that don't necessarily know you're there, but will know you're there in a half a second because the guy shooting at you is going to be spotted, because you don't move quickly with the Riot Shield, you're going to get flanked constantly. Like, I attempted so many times to push from objective to objective with the Riot Shield out, and I didn't last half a second most of the time. Like, it's terrible how brief you live in these situations. Like, it just doesn't work on Conquest, at least from my experience. The next step of my journey took me to Operation Metro and Operation Locker. I actually heard from a DICE interview that this was one of the reasons why they created the Ballistic Shield. They wanted to create an item or a gadget that would allow you to break up the stalemates in the center of the map that you guys know that those maps eventually just turn into. And while in theory that sounds amazing, in practice it just never happens. While sure, every once in a while, once in a blue moon, you can have that tactical amazing situation where you're working with some buddies, you storm into one of those long hallways, you block a million bullets for them, you run on in, you're still distracting them, your buddies fly in behind you, and you mow everyone down. Yeah, sounds amazing, never happens. And the reason why it never happens is because these maps have constant grenade spam. And one of the largest weaknesses of the Riot Shield is that if an explosion happens next to it, the glass breaks. That glass barrier that allows you to see through it will break, and then if anyone shoots you through that little slit, they get a nice little headpiece and you're gonna die really quickly. And so more often than not, while I may be able to get like halfway through the hallway, eventually a million grenades fly past me, they explode, they either kill me outright, or the glass breaks. I may be able to block a couple of bullets, but then they just shoot through the slit once they get smart, once they realize that the glass is no longer there, and then I immediately die. And so really, the only way I could see this being remotely effective on something like Operation Metro and Operation Locker, which apparently is what it was designed for, is if you're either playing on a non-explosive server, there are a couple of servers that have those rule sets, or we're just simply gonna have to wait for them to patch the game. If you're not aware right now, on the CTE servers, DICE is trying whatever they can to reduce the amount of grenade spam that's in the game. Not only are you not going to be able to hold as many grenades if you're using like the Impact or the Mini, but they're also significantly increasing the recharge rate of those grenades, how quickly you get another one if you're standing on top of an ammo bag. The end result is going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait for the patch. And so when it does go live, maybe I could see the Ballistic Shield being a little bit more viable on these two maps, but until then, because grenade spam is so prevalent and grenades are one of the largest weaknesses of the Riot Shield, it's just one of the worst things that you could probably use. Like, it just does not get the job done. But now you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would I ever use this gadget? And while that is a good question, where I was having the most success was on Rush. Remember how I said earlier that Conquest is too open because there's too many different angles that the enemy can hit you from? Well, Rush is different because it's much more linear. The enemy is only going to really be coming from one direction, and because your shield only blocks bullets from one direction, it fits perfectly with this game mode. And so if you use it correctly and you bounce from cover to cover, all of a sudden you got into a position where you had no business being in if you weren't using the riot shield. Your teammates can spawn on you, you can start hitting the enemy from a different angle, and then this allows you to then push up onto the objective, hopefully securing the win or at least taking out a couple of MCOMs. That's when I finally started to see some value with this gadget. Another great way you can use it is to simply distract your enemy when you're playing on Rush. There were moments when I was a fair distance away from the action, like I was out in the open, I had my ballistic shield up, and the enemy was trying to take me down. Like, clearly there were multiple people shooting at me, and this not only put them on the minimap, it distracted them. They may not be noticing the people that were flanking around, but then that allowed my teammates to push up and take advantage of that distraction. The thing about it, though, is that this is a purely selfless act on the part of the support player using the ballistic shield. They don't get rewarded for soaking up bullets, and this is actually something that I would like to see change, where maybe they give you a couple of points per bullet or something like that, like maybe 2 or 1 points per bullet that they soak up, because in those situations where you're acting as the distraction, you don't get any points like if you were using an MAV or an ammo bag or anything like that. You're not killing anyone when you have the ballistic shield up. Yes, you could make the argument that if you use the shield to get into a nice perch and then kill people from that nice flanking route, then the riot shield paid for itself. But realistically, it's a selfless act on the part of the support player to use that gadget. And so what I would like to see is maybe put a little bit more incentive to use this gadget, give us a couple of points or reward us a couple of points for soaking up some damage, but also make it more of a defensive item. What I would really like to see is a boost in its resistance to explosive devices. Right now, it feels like if any explosion happens next to the riot shield, the glass breaks. And at that point, it's basically useless. Like, you go against anyone who's a competent player, they're going to notice that the glass is broken, they're going to go for the headshots, and you're not going to have a fighting chance. Make it so that it requires, like, maybe 2 or 3 explosions for that thing to break. The trade-off of it, we don't want it to be overpowered. The trade-off of it, though, is that instead of doing, I think, 50 damage per slam, like if you hit someone in the body, I think it does 50 damage per shot, maybe make it do 25 damage or 20 damage, so then you have to hit them 4 or 5 times. Then, in panic situations, let's say you come across an enemy who rounds the corner and he's only got 20 health, then yeah, you can finish him off, but make this a defensive item. Make it so that I can use it tactically, soak up some damage for my teammates, reward me for being that distraction and soaking up those bullets, and then I can see that being a gadget that's actually worthwhile on a lot of these maps. And so overall, while on Rush, I would say that this is a mediocre gadget, at least with the way that things are implemented right now. I would rather be using something like the XM25 Airburst or C4. I know that those gadgets are going to get the job done. They're way more reliable. I'm going to get a lot more kills, and I'm going to be rewarded for those kills and for using the gadget the way that they're supposed to be used. But let me know what you think about the Ballistic Shield. Do you have a tactic that allows you to outperform the enemy that I'm just not aware of? Do you agree that an increase to its effectiveness is in order? Let me know down below. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.